Cheap Trick are one of those bands that I don't think get enough recognition and respect. And I am so tired of Rick Nielsen getting overlooked in so many of those greatest guitarist lists. Dude is an endless well of great riffs. And don't even get me started on Zander. Robin's easily one of the most powerful, charismatic, and I think somewhat underappreciated rock vocalists America's ever produced. They reached the peak of their popularity in the late 70s, but still produced several gems into the 80s, including a couple of amazing songs they contributed to the heavy metal soundtrack, Spring Break, and by 1988, finally getting their first #1 hit with The Flame. The 90s were spotty, but I think they crept back into form with the underappreciated Woke Up With a Monster in 1994. But it was 1997's self-titled album where they really came back with a sincere vengeance. Classic sounding Cheap Tricks and plenty of nods to the Beatles. They were pretty quiet on the studio album front after this album until 2004. I'd never done a deep dive into Cheap Tricks, so I listened to their 2000s albums, and these were the standouts for me. On previous albums, these were standouts. Cheap Trick are one of the great American rock bands. Definitely one of the best power pop bands we produce on our shores, and I think they deserve their flowers and their salutes right now.
Rockford, Illinois' own Cheap Trick. Like he said, severely underrated band. Cheap Trick was part of the soundtrack of my youth. My mother didn't do many things right, but the one thing she did do right is she had me exposed to music very early. Music was constantly on in the background. I grew up with a steady, audible diet of Elvis Presley, Kenny Rogers, Styx, and Cheap Trick. And yes, I do have a spot for them on my wall. Like Rickenbacker said, severely underrated. They were for the longest time considered to be like a gimmick band because they had two pretty boys and then they had these two weird nerdy guys. The drummer Bunny Carlos kind of fit into that mold with Rick Nielsen. But Bunny Carlos was a phenomenal drummer. Rick Nielsen, a phenomenal guitar player. And one other thing about this band that people need to know, that their studio albums, in my opinion, are okay, but they're truly a live band. They're the ones who turn it on in front of an audience, probably more than anybody else. From their studio work to their live work, there's a hell of a transition. So if you're not already into Cheap Trick, you need to go listen to some Cheap Trick. You probably know a few of their songs, right? Surrender, Mama's Alright, Daddy's Alright, they just seem a little weird. Surrender, that's Cheap Trick. The Dream Police, they live inside of my head. If you're not already into them, you should really get into them, man. They're as Rickenbacker said, a truly overlooked band.